What's up, peoples? It's Gendo here, and welcome back to another Chicago Fire vlog, where today the Fire are going to be at home taking on heated rivals, the New England Revolution. Now, there's a big discrepancy between both New England and Chicago in the standings. I want to say New England are currently sitting in 4th place and have had themselves a fair run of matches and a fair run of form to get themselves into 4th place. Chicago Fire coming off of back-to-back wins for the first time all season, last Saturday versus San Jose, and then midweek against Columbus Crew after an epic penalty shootout in the U.S. Open Cup. However, they're now going to be taking on Atlanta United down in Atlanta in just a couple weeks' time in the Cup round of 16. So thanks, Fire, but I think your Cup run is over. But that's not the match we're talking about. We're talking about this one right here versus New England. Chicago Fire look to still have their struggles both offensively and defensively. Just maybe the New England Revolution are going to be eeping this one out over the Chicago Fire, but I do have optimism. I do think that the Fire will at least pull a point in this matchup. I think it's going to end up a 1-all draw. Obviously, hope the boys can prove me wrong. Hope they can get a win, but I mean, the offense is just sputtering at this point in time. It's nice that Alan Gordon has gotten himself 3 goals in 3 matches. Nemanja Nikolic coming back off of injury. Hopefully he gets himself on the score sheet today. Just have to wait and see.
Come on, boys! I want you to just listen to the atmosphere. Can you hear any music? Kickoff. What a save.
Schweinsteiger, Katai, back to Schweinsteiger, fires, scores!
Goal. Revs tied up 9 minutes to go. There's going to be a highlight before or during this, but goalkeeper just gifted them a goal. Sanchez was terrible.
I hate it when I'm right, especially in situations such as this. So I want to say this is actually the first prediction that I've actually gotten right in the Chicago Fire vlogs. It did, in fact, end up being a 1-all draw. And in all honesty, Chicago Fire did get themselves a little bit of lucky that it ended up just being a 1-all draw, because at the end of the match, New England were pouncing on us and putting so much pressure on our defensive line that we didn't know what to do. And even before that, our defensive line looked all out of sorts. Didn't know really what they were doing, didn't really figure out the positioning that they were supposed to be in, and they were allowing runs from Teal Bunbury, Diego Fagundes, and pretty much the entire front four of the New England Revolution to just run through the back line unabated. Now, outside of that, the first half was very uneventful for the most part. There were some ticky-tack fouls on both sides, eventually a couple of players getting shown yellow cards for the New England side, but it was in the second half where all hell just broke loose. I do have the referee's name here. I believe his name was, it says right here, Kevin Stott was the head referee for his crew for the match today. Kevin Stott did not do a damn thing in calling fouls on this day. Yeah, there were a couple that he probably should have called on the Fire against the New England Revolution, but he let the New England Revolution get away with murder against the Chicago Fire today, just letting everybody play on after very obvious fouls, both outside the box and a couple that should have been penalties for the Chicago Fire. He let them play on. So I know Bastian Schweinsteiger in his post-match interview said that he didn't want to talk about the refereeing. He just let the reporters talk about it. So, okay, I'm going to report on it. I'm going to call the bastard out by name. Kevin Stott, you are a horrible referee, and you need to stop refereeing. Apparently, he's been refereeing since the start of the MLS. I think it's time to retire and find a new profession, because refereeing is not for you. But anyway, getting back to the actions of the second half, for the first 10 minutes of that half, the New England Revolution were consistently within our half. I don't think the Chicago Fire got the ball out of their own half at all once in those first 10 minutes. But after that, from the 55th to the 65th minute, it was all Chicago Fire, consistent pressure, consistent attacking. It was almost like a switch was flipped that allowed them to get consistent attacking runs within the New England area, and that ultimately ended up leading to the Chicago Fire opening the scoring with a lovely 1-2 pass between Bastian Schweinsteiger and Alexander Katai running down the middle, with some lovely passing, of course, from Mo Adams and Dax McCarry to set all that up. But Bastian Schweinsteiger opening the goal scoring to get Chicago Fire into the lead, and at that point in time, we really needed to not just rest on our laurels. I understand that you're leading, you're just at that point in time playing not to lose, but that is just what Veljko Paunovic does way too often when we are in a winning position, even in a drawing position. We play to not lose, and that ultimately is what's going to bite you in the ass going down the stretch. And ultimately, when we put the foot off of the gas pedal, that's essentially what happened. New England Revolution back into their pressing, attacking, pacey play. That was what ultimately caused the match to go the way of New England at the very end. And ultimately, all that pressure gave Richard Sanchez a nice little brain fart on making a very, very simple, I would think, goalkeeping play. Diego Corrales, unfortunately, not being able to head the ball clear. The ball having so much backspin on it, Richard Sanchez could not get a good handle onto it. He was right at the edge of the byline. If he felt like he was not going to have himself a wonderful grasp of the ball, he should have just pushed the ball out the back of the byline and concede the corner, but instead he spills it in front of net. That led to New England and Teal Bunbury able to equalize and make it 1-1 with 8 minutes left to go. And ultimately, that is unforgivable. In all honesty, Richard Sanchez, I know you're young, but you have played professional football for the last 4 years at this point in time of your life. You need to know what to do in that situation. You need to be aware of your surroundings. And you need to know that if you're on the byline and you don't think you have a grasp of that ball, let it go over the line and concede the corner. Deal with the corner instead of allowing the ball to fall to the feet of the opposition and allow them an easy goal. So ultimately, that was the end of the match, 1-1. A ton of boos raining down upon the players and the refs after just a very shoddy performance from both aspects. And, well, ultimately, where do we go from here? Chicago Fire need to regroup and get themselves some solid results on the road before the Chicago Fire then come back home. At the end of the month, they're going to take on NYCFC, obviously a very tough squad. David Villa still scoring goals and a very solid midfield as well, with Patrick Vieira's side doing extremely well this year. Could they lead themselves past Atlanta, past Toronto in the Eastern Conference when it comes down to the playoff time? We'll just have to wait and see. And before we go, special shout out to James and Jeffrey of the Spitting Fire YouTube channel. I met James at the match today talking about Chicago Fire, talking about Football Manager as well. And if you guys want to know anything about the Chicago Fire, go to their channel. They give you the news updates on the rosters, pre-match and post-match. I cannot stress this enough. If you are a Chicago Fire fan and you want to stay in the know, Jeff and James, the two guys that you need to be following. So I'll put the link in the description below, Spitting Fire YouTube channel, for all your information on Chicago Fire. But anyway, guys, that's it for another Chicago Fire vlog. Take care, peace out, and I'll see you back again at home when the Chicago Fire take on New York City FC on June the 30th.